And right now, we're not going to waste any time. When you got a dude like Kevin Smith waiting in the wings, a lockdown corner from Texas A&M and winning 3 Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys, you bring him right on. Kevin, what's happening, man?
I'm good. How you doing? You doing okay?
I'm doing great. And I thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning and to talk a little bit about your team. They got a big game coming up against Miami at home. How you feeling about the matchup and your team being in the college football playoff? Just off the jump.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm happy for what Mike Elko is doing down at A&M. He's definitely, taking the bull by the horn and created a great culture and getting through the transport portal and great recruiting. They've got some great. Just looking at the team, I went down there early in the year, saw them play against, I think, Mississippi State, and being on the sideline, they look like an SEC team now, from top to bottom, D-line, the safeties, the receivers, and they were able to do some good things this year. I mean, other than losing to UT, that, we feel pretty good about where we are right now. Now, playing the Hurricanes, I mean, if you watch the Hurricanes, it's probably the most talented team in the playoffs right now, player for player, probably one of the best looking defenses out there. So A&M is going to have their hands full, but, being at home is not a home game. I mean, it's a home game, but it's really a host game. There's not really a home game based on how they could present the scoreboard and different things. And, and I didn't know that until this week, it's a host game and not so much a home game.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you were to host the first round of like the NCAA tournament or something, I guess. I'm like you.
Exactly.
That kind of surprised me as well. By the way, we had your former teammate from the Dallas Cowboys, Darren Smith, was on here yesterday talking a little smack about his Hurricanes.
Yeah, how does he feel about the Hurricanes?
I think he's a little bit more he's walking on eggshells into this one. I'll be honest. I think I mean, and I'm not. He's very, as you know, he's a very humble, honest dude. And he was like, "Hey, Texas A&M is real good." So he's not looking past at all. How could you? This Texas A&M team. We talk about your Cowboys defenses, and I want to go back to your A&M defenses. You guys were like, because you're probably 4 years older than me. So when I was in high school, I was watching you guys dominate, and when you were the best defense in the country, pretty much, I think, Kevin. Like, when you guys set that tone that is still carried today, that tone set by you and R.C. Slocum, where did that come from? Your guys' ability to just shut down opponents and hold them to like 220 yards a game or something like that?
Well, one thing that R.C. did, and Jack and Cheryl and those guys, we had some of the better athletes and the better players. We actually played defense back then, and guys who came in at quarterback like Johnny Holland, William Thomas was a quarterback, Larry Horton was a running back. A lot of these guys converted, from their freshman year. Then, hey, you know what? That guy might be a better corner. I was a receiver in high school. I played corner in high school as well. But a lot of schools, U of H, LSU, a lot of schools recruited me as a receiver. But RC and Bob Davey and those guys, they wanted to create that wrecking crew, that reckless type, rush on the end, send the guys on the outside and play man-to-man. Myself, Derek Fraser, and big safeties like Patrick Bates, and all these guys. Everyone in my secondary, when I say our secondary, went on and played in the NFL. I mean, so if I'm talking about guys that were third and fourth stringers, Steve Lofton, Kerry Vincent, names that are not too familiar, these guys were like the third and fourth and fifth corners, and they all went on to the NFL because they were just great athletes. And by the way, both of those guys could run 4.240s. That helped a little bit as well. But it helps a lot, trying to get in the NFL. But we just had our best athletes play defense. And now, when you look at the wide open offenses, those guys are now KC Concepcion, and, those guys now are playing offense. And then you got to figure out how to match them up, find some guys to match up against them now.
Kevin, how you played so physical at cornerback. You mentioned about guys with speed. You really had both. You had the physicality, you had the quickness and the speed. How much different is the position of cornerback being played today? Like, how much different will it look Saturday when A&M and Miami lock up as opposed to when you were trying to lock guys down?
I think you have to. I think it's more scheme now. You don't see the matchups, the one-on-ones, because and again, it's because of the rules now. The rules don't allow you to be as rough as we were, and even before us, when Lester Hayes, when those guys played with the stickum, you know, you can grab a guy and run with him all down the field. But I don't know how. And people ask questions about Drew Pearson and all those guys. When they got 1,000 yards, it really meant 1,000 yards because the guy could hold on to throughout. You had to really tangle with a guy all the way down the field. And we had the 5-yard bump rule, where that bump rule has kind of been eliminated a little bit. So, you know, it's a little tougher. And I think you have to scheme more with coverages and mix and match your coverages with zones, which is a whole lot different. But my physicality came from my high school, which is in the state championship as well. So I got a busy weekend. So West Orange Stark plays Friday at 3. The Aggies play at 11. Then I got to be out at Cowboys Stadium for 12. So I got a whole weekend of football, but a lot of the physicality and the toughness, mental toughness came from my high school. And I want to send a rest in peace out to my high school coach, Dan Hooks, who passed away last week. Most of the people who know high school football know Danny Ray Hooks and what he meant to West Orange Stark football. And I want to, just send an RIP out to my coach.
No, and let's talk a little bit about that. What did you learn from Danny? Because I want to ask you, what you learned from guys like Bob Davie, R.C. Slocum, and Jackie Sherrill, and how that helped you get to the NFL. But what about Danny playing for Coach really prepared you not only for more football but for life?
It was the beginning of my football journey, and other than Little League football. And I'm working on a book right now with Clarence Hill and John Jacques.
Oh, wow.
Beat writers for Dallas Cowboys, and the name of the book is A Fly on the Wall with Greatness. And I was just a fly on the wall, sucking in all this greatness from Danny Ray Hooks, Cornell Thompson, who was at West Orange, the Brain Trust, and they had a program, an all-season program. And as a ninth grader, I was about 120 pounds. I couldn't even lift the bar. And, one thing that I was telling the story about Coach Hooks, he saw me out there running around, and he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And once I start believing in myself, then that's the one thing Coach Hooks would instill in the guy. If he trusted in you, he believed you, and he called my name on a lot of plays that helped us win state championships. I mean, he would single-handedly just call me out and say, "Pup, you get in there. I want you to run this route." He'd drop a play in the dirt, and he would depend on and trust on me, and that's one thing I'll always remember from him.
Yeah, and it kind of it reminds you of what the game's all about. Just you sharing that story to me. You know what I mean? It's like, drawing the plays in the dirt. I'm better than you. I'm going to go out and make a play. When you get to Texas A&M, there was a toughness around being a Texas A&M Aggie. When you see Mike Elko's team taking the field now, do you feel like that is somewhat of an extension of what being an Aggie really is all about?
Most definitely. And then in the one game that really sticks out, the South Carolina game, those guys are down, I think 27-3 or whatever the score was, 30-3. And, I was watching it on TV. It was, again, an early 11 o'clock game, so I hope they don't come out flat like that this week. But, at halftime, you would think, any other stadium, you would see, you see patches in the stadium. People would start leaving and headed to the tailgates, and we're just going to drink our problems away. But no one left the stadium, and none of those kids gave up. And it showed what true Aggie spirit is, to never stop, never lay down. And that one game really shows you what Mike Elko has instilled in those guys. And it saved their season, because if they lose that game and then stumble into the Texas game and lose, then they may not be in the position that they're in right now. But right now, because of that, they have an opportunity to do something that no Texas A&M team has done in 50, 60 years, more so than what we did. And I'll tell people all the time when they ask me, "Hey, man, what do you miss about the games? Or what do you think about what's your favorite plays at A&M?" And I say, "You know what? I don't dream about the best plays I had at A&M. I dream about the plays I didn't make and what could have changed the game. Because a lot of the games the few games that I lost at A&M, it was by less than a touchdown or two. 10 points, less than 10 points in most of those games."
Man, it's amazing how defense was the recipe for success for you guys, and against Miami, it's going to have to be the recipe for success again for Texas A&M in this game Saturday. What jumps out to you as a cornerback about Miami's offensive attack?
Well, of course they have a veteran, quarterback that's been in that spotlight before. He's been in the big game. You know, Beck is going to be. I don't think you can rattle him too much. There's nothing you can do other than hitting him and making him fumble the ball and putting some good pressure on him. But I don't think talking to him and chanting to him and the crowd, I don't think that's going to affect him, that much. So having him as their quarterback and their general on the field, that one thing is going to be the thing that's going to help Miami. Now, don't get me wrong. He's going to have to hear that A&M crowd. That's going to be a problem. I think we'll have more people than Miami will have in the stands. But what sticks out is their receivers, they got talent. I mean, they got some speed. And, one thing that A&M is, if I'd say they struggle anything, it would be on the deep ball. So I would expect Miami. If I was Miami, I would try to, I would throw the ball deep. I would take a couple shots to see if, worst can happen is an interception, but, interference or even make a catch. And that's one of the things that A&M has been vulnerable against this year on the corner, both corners, with Lee and other guy, I can't think of the other corner name, number 2, but they're vulnerable of giving up the big play. So we got to defend that post, defend that big play.
When you talk about I love, by the way, your breakdowns. This is awesome. And nobody's better qualified to ask this follow-up question than you are. You played a ton of big games, dude, at every level. And the 3 Super Bowls speak for themselves. And there's a ton of, big games on the road to those Super Bowls. In a game like this, of this magnitude, what is your instinct as a cornerback? Do you play disciplined or do you play aggressive?
You play what you saw on film. I mean, you really got to play with the analytics. One thing that I was taught from high school on up, through college, we watched a lot of film. And one thing people don't know that, I tell people all the time, was just that Jackie Sherrill was the coach at the University of Pittsburgh in the mid-70s. On his staff was Jimmy Johnson. On his staff was Bob Davie. He was a GA. On that was Butch Davis. All the coaches that was coached with the Cowboys,
somewhere in the mix too there.
Dave Wanstead was with that staff. Yeah. Jackie goes to A&M. Jimmy goes to Oklahoma State and ends up at Miami. So I feel like I'm a Hurricane as well, because when I got drafted to the Cowboys, it was Michael Irvin and Darren Smith came, Kevin Williams came, and Jimmy Jones. It was all Miami players there. Smith. So I was a part of the Hurricane family too, being a part of Jimmy Johnson. But again, that whole system, Jackie, went to A&M. I played for Jackie, get drafted by the Cowboys. With Denny, the first college called. So yeah, he fits your system. He's going to do this. He's going to play it by the rules. He's going to watch film. He's going to be on time. He's going to be accountable. So really and truly, with a corner, anybody that plays the game has to understand what system you got. How do they want to attack our system, and how analytically what do they do on down the distance, possessions? What do they do personnel? When are they going to take the deep ball after a turnover? All those things got to factor in, and all that's got to happen within seconds of the play call. And so that's. And I try to, when I was working with Michael Johnson Performance, getting guys ready for the combine, that was a part of the process that we would teach these guys, how to mentally get ready for a game based on the analytics of what you saw on the film.
Dude, and how cool is that, right? It also lets you know, like for young kids, like you're always in the middle of some kind of interview, right? Because, right. For Jimmy to call Jackie Sherrill, all that stuff, I think is really so cool. Offensively, right. What does A&M have to do to win this football game, in your opinion?
I think if they get the Moss kid back, what they've been missing, he's their bruiser. Yeah. If they can get him back and get him to go 40, 50, 60, 70 yards, because he's the type of back that's going to keep the drives going. Those 3rd and 1s, those 3rd and 2s, the 4th and 1s, they got other backs. I know Emmett Son's been back there. He's been their short yardage guy, but he's not Moss. He's not as big as Moss. But, of course, Reed has got to play well and protect the football. I think once they get their running game going, that would give Reed some more play action options, read options, some more of their, RPO stuff. But I think they're going to do well. I think they're really going to take some shots and move. No one's really stopped A&M this year other than, themselves. So if Moss can get back and we get a good running game, I think we'll be able to control the ball and keep the ball away from them. And the time of possession may be the factor in the whole game.
Yeah, when you talk about one more about when you bring up Emmett's son, does Emmett, like when his son is thinking about making the move to Texas A&M, is that something like, do you get a phone call from him, or do you hear about that after it happens? Like, how does that go down?
Well, I talked to him, and I think EJ initially really wanted to go to A&M. And I think Emmett has a lot of business partners in his businesses with A&M. And of course, his oldest daughter went to A&M and played soccer. So she was already there and was about, it may have been her senior year or junior year would have been EJ's first year when he went to Stanford. But I think he initially really, really, because he had committed to A&M. And so, yes, we talked about it. Me and Emmett still play dominoes. And he's so happy and proud that EJ is, actually getting some good run this year. And EJ was really a big factor in about 2 or 3 of the Arkansas games for sure, and a few of the other games. He was, if it wasn't for EJ, in the absence of Moss, then that would have been, those games would have been up for grabs, But yeah, we've talked about that, and Emmett is just so happy and proud, and EJ loves it down there. He just loves it to death, man.
Hey, a couple more questions for you. It really is so cool. I mean, and how lucky am I? I get to talk to Darren yesterday, Darren Smith, and now I'm talking to you. But this Cowboys like alumni chapter, you guys who won so much together, you all really seem like you actually really like each other and still stay in touch. Tell me a little bit more about those relationships and how strong this bond is.
Well, I'll say this, Troy does a lot, Emmett does a lot. I have a restaurant here in Dallas, and so I host a lot of events. We've had Larry Allen passed away. Yeah. We had an offensive lineman, Tony Houston, Hudson passed away. We had some guys in the last 2 or 3 years pass away. So we try to get together at least 4 or 5 times a year. And Troy does a big event, we went out to, I can't think of the place down in Uptown, but it's I can't think of the name of that place. It's like a park, outdoor park. You sit down in restaurants, and all the guys, and guys just come. It's free drinks, it's free food, and it's sponsored by 8 Beer, and Novacek's there with his liquor, and Stepnoski, who's about 190 pounds. You wouldn't recognize Stepnoski now. Big Mark Stepnoski and Leon Lett showed up at one of the last events, and Eric Williams. And so we get to see each other. There's a guy named Anthony Montoya who worked in the locker room. He was kind of our go-get guy, go get this, go get that. And so he's got a database of almost all the guys, and we on group text. And when I have things at my restaurant, we do domino tournaments and spade tournaments, and Big Flozel Adams, and not just our era, but we get guys, Keith Davis and some of the 2000 guys. They come through, Brady James and all those guys. But so we do still communicate, and the Cowboys do events, but those are more formal. Yeah. And we don't really have a lot of time because, we getting rushed on the field and rushed here, and then you 5 go to that suite, and you 5 go to that suite. Whereas these events are more laid back, and there are no fans, there's no crowd. It's just us in a building. We got a roped off area. Katy Trail is what Troy did one of the last events at Katy Trail.
Yeah, on that bar on Katy Trail, right? That's a cool place.
Yeah. Beautiful little area. It was a beautiful day. I can name guys the game, Jason Garrett, and everyone shows up if they're in town, and some guys that are not in town will fly in. James Washington was at a few of them. So yeah, we stay in touch. I talked to Dan Woodson probably more than anybody. I text Mike early in the week. I hadn't heard this, but we do know when you text Mike, expect a call about a week later. And then Mike will call he will call just like you just, hey man, what's I saw your text. Mike, that was 10 days ago. Okay, what's going on? That's Mike Irvin.
Hey Kev, yeah. What's the name of the restaurant? Your restaurant?
It's called Echo. It's called Echo Lounge. So it's a restaurant and lounge.
Yeah. My man. And you know what's funny is like, you talk about that most of the alumni groups, that's when they get together, is when teams have events. Like you guys are really still so close. And look, man, I was born in Philly. I'm an Eagles fan, but there is mad respect for the Cowboys, and just not only you guys are all great guys. You had this reputation like you were these outlaws, but you all are like, I don't know, every time I get a chance to talk to one of you guys, I'm so impressed. Whether it's Babe Laufenberg, who was a little before you, maybe.
Babe was a great guy. Babe actually, Yeah, we were. The one thing about it, we hung out. I mean, we were able to hang out. We didn't have a social media world. Our practice facility was. I mean, I remember people just walking out in the middle of the field. I mean, we didn't have this high tech security. I mean, I remember people just walking straight out in the middle of the field and hugging Troy Aikman. I'm like, where's the security around here? I mean, we had no cameras in the locker room, and we had a place called Cowboy Cafe that was our little hole that we watched Monday Night Football, and we shot pool, and and people came in. That's Michael Irvin. That's Charles Haley. We wasn't really bothered. We would, hey, you can't get autographs in here, but that's not the case no more with social media. These guys, I hardly ever see 2 or 3 of the Cowboys together right now. I mean, never. I've never seen them. And I live in Plano, which is 5 minutes, I say 7 minutes from the Star where I live, and I hardly ever see them in a group of 5. Never seen them in a group of 5 or 10. And you would never see us back in the day. We went out together. We had a rule. If we go out together, we come in together. And we would go out in packs, at least 5 or 6 or 7 of them. And we're still that way today. And that's when we see each other. It's almost like we're sharing these 20, 30-year-old stories, but it's like we just saw each other yesterday, like we just left practice and we're back in the meeting rooms again. That's kind of how the conversations go.
That is magical. All right, last question for you before I let you out of here. Who's going to, I know you're going to say A&M, but who's going to win the game? And if it is A&M, what do you think their ceiling is this season?
I think A&M, confidence, the next game, I think, will be in Dallas, the Cotton Bowl. So that's again, it's not a home game, but it's on home turf. So I'm thinking A&M will beat Miami. I'm thinking A&M will beat Ohio State. I believe that in Dallas. Now, after that, I don't remember the bracket. I think they'd have to play who then?
I'd have to
if
look
they beat Ohio State, I think the other it's not Oklahoma and Alabama. They're on the other side.
Yeah.
I hadn't looked at the bracket, but I think they can make it to the semifinal game, and then call me back after that.
All right, so let's see. Hold on. You'll have to play Georgia probably. That'll be tough, right?
That'll be a tough game, but I mean, it's an SEC team on the road after 2 big wins. It depends on if they're healthy. If you don't lose any of your key players, then we'll see how it goes. We'll roll the ball out there and see if we can go out there and win. I'm confident in them. If we can come out and play good solid on defense and move the ball like I think we can, I think A&M has a shot.
Yeah, Kevin Smith, dude, you're the real deal. I can't thank you enough for calling in and being a part of this discussion today.
I appreciate you guys having me.
You got it, man.
Thank you.
Take care, Kev.
All right, take care. All right, take care.
There he goes, Kevin Smith, man. That was pretty awesome. And again, you got to realize I grew up an Eagles fan. This is uncharted territory for me, but I got to tell you, he talks about, I want to take just 1 second to talk about these Cowboy teams as my screen behind us is dark, which is fine, Scotty. Yeah, I know. It's like going on. It's like something over at my place now. It's like, I by the way, I am getting so old where I got this gigantic television and I have issues with it where I just end up watching stuff on my phone or my computer because I'm like, this will be way easier if I just watch it on my computer. So some of the things I watch though are way too old, NFL games and highlights. And boy, that dude just gave us, honestly, I mean, the Cowboys were uber talented and you can't ever take that away from them. And they had an amazing coach, right? Amazing coaching staff as we got into that a little bit with Kevin there, but that cohesion that they had off the field that really does carry on to the field, whether it's a basketball court. I think of, the Villanova 1985 team. Those guys were like brothers. And when you're just that close, you can do anything together. And, that's a Villanova basketball team, the team that upset Georgetown in 85. They were talented, dude. They were way more talented than people give them credit for. But this Cowboys team, these teams, they were elite level talent and they were elite chemistry wise. And, as things got, as the dynasty started to dim, right, things got pretty dark. We know some of the stories, like the Everett McKeever, Michael Irvin stuff. And there were dark moments. There's dark moments in anything, especially when you have these high performers with egos chasing success. It's like really an amazing thing to watch on the field. And there's a lot going on personally, right, with your hunger, and you're almost become like a conqueror, some of these young men that are in these positions. But like, you're not going to war alone. You're going to war with guys who you look to your right or left, like these are your brothers. And like, it's not one of those deals where, I was talking yesterday, I did an episode for The Payoff with Pete, Stories of Sobriety. And I had this guy, John Bucati, on, and he played football at Kansas. And I was asking him about like, what he did off the field. Now, this is a special case because the guy is sober now, many years, but he was an alcoholic in active addiction. But he would be at practice the next day. And the guys to his right or his left, like they had no clue what he'd been up to, because I mean, he didn't say they were choir boys, but they weren't like him, so the Cowboys, they turn to their right or their left and they smell somebody smelling like Jack Daniels. Well, they probably smell like Jack Daniels too. Or if they don't smell like Jack Daniels, at least they understand why that guy does, because they know what he was up to, because they're that close to him. Right. And like, that is something that I find to be so terribly special about some of these amazing teams. And that Cowboys team, I mean, and another thing, you got to put a feather in the cap of like North Texas and the Dallas metropolitan area, where like it's a kick-ass place to live. Like, so all those guys, why would you leave? You're still a celebrity. Like I talked to Kevin Smith. I'm sure Kevin Williams still hangs out there. He's like, it was like a special teams dude, punt returner on those teams. But like, if I played for the Cowboys during that time, you'd have to kick me out of the DFW metro area. You do